Well, the first time I met her, I was in service escorting war dead from World War II. I was home for the weekend. I always made the point to go to a square dance on Saturday night if I get back home. And was talked into going to a party over in the country in Lincoln County that Saturday night. And when we drove up, it's the four of us. She was standing off from the crowd about 20 feet. And a friend of mine said, "Well, there's my girl for the night." Of course, I'd already spotted her. And I said, "Well, if she's yours, if you get to her before I do." So I bailed out and I went straight to her and told her who I was. And kind of backed off from her a little bit. "Who are you?" And I told her. And asking her why she wasn't with the crowd. She was between the crowd and the house that her best friend lived, and she's waiting on her to come back. She wouldn't tell me where she lived. Stuck around long enough to find out that her and this girl, the redhead girl, left together. And had no idea it was her sister or kin or anything, a friend. We followed her home. She was driving. And their house sat about 100 feet off the plank road. Big oak tree down the road, and I watched the car go in, and both of them went in the house. Lights went out. Lights went out in the house. The only thing us three and myself was talking about, I said, "Well, that girl's got to be spending the night with a friend, or a friend spending the night with her." So Sunday after lunch, I went up there to that house. And big old feller, about 6'2", weighed about 240 pounds, sitting around on the side porch. Big dog laying in the front yard there, and I didn't like dogs, but I wasn't going to let that stop me. I went on around and told this man, I said, "I'm Claude Lutz from Dallas." I said, "I met a young lady last night that this is where she come to." And I said, "I wonder if she's here." Her name was Sue. And he hollered, "Sue," and she come out. And well, from then on, come to find out, Martha was her sister. And from that time on, everything was lovey-dovey for. Then I made a point to come home every weekend if I wasn't on mission. Well, I wasn't ready to settle down when I got out of service. I worked for the state about 3 months. And one of my school classmates I'd in school with, he wanted to go to California. We hitchhiked to California. Hitchhiked. Left Dallas. Doyle Clemmer was a brick mason and lives in Dallas. He had a job out in Houston, Texas. Had a ride for Houston. From there, California on our own. And we got out there left on Monday morning, got there on Friday night. Slept in the bus station. Saturday morning, walked up North Hollywood, Van Nuys, Burbank. Talked this elderly man and woman into giving us a place to stay. $15 a week, room, no laundry, no meal in advance. Well, I didn't have a 15 cent in my pocket. Didn't know nobody. He didn't know nobody. But the elderly man and woman, after I talked to them for a while, took us in, showed us a little room. Next morning, I borrowed 50 cents from him. Went up to San Fernando and got me a job. At the end of that week, getting the job was the main thing. It was the S.H. Crescent Company in San Fernando. And this, Lord, man, there's four of us in line, and I was the fourth one when the door opened. And the manager who opened the door said, "You fellas here for apply for the job." Manager trainees, what he said, the job, and that was advertised. Stockroom clerk, that's all it was, stockroom boy. We went in with him, filled out our application. He interviewed 1, 2, 3. Claude's time. I walked in, have a seat. I said, got a couple questions. He said, "I'll ask the questions." I said, "No, I want to ask a couple before I sit down." I said, "How much does this job pay?" He said, $35 a week. I said, "Hey, them other three fellers, have you committed either one of them?" He said, "No." I said, "I'm going to talk to you." I said, "How about doing me a favor?" I mean, I'd been in service around a few times, you know, couple times. He said, "What can I do?" I said, "You can ask them other three fellows you appreciate them applying, tell them to go home, that you found your man." I said, "I'll take the job for 25. And he said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "Listen, fella," I said, "you don't know what kind of predicament I'm in." I said, "I'm 3,500 miles from my home and don't know nobody but the fella I hitchhiked out with. And I said, I owe $15.50. And I said, I need a job. Got to have one." Well, he talked to him a little bit, and he got up, went out there and told them fellas he had his man.
Yeah, never heard that before.
No, but anyway, that was on Sunday morning. They was open all day time. Saturday evening come, go down in the basement, and ladies on the floor, they'd send a slip down there, them little baskets you pull around. I'd climb up and get number so and so and put it in the basket, and I'd send it back up on the elevator. Well, I didn't go to lunch first day, the second day. Now, I'd done a little wrong there. I mean, but I had path of least resistance. We had peanuts and candy and all that stuff down there. See, I had to fill them orders too. And, of course, when lunchtime come, I wasn't hungry. I mean, handful of peanuts here and a piece of candy here. And I made that to him later. My conscience made me do it. But Saturday come, and he called me in his office, handed me an envelope, and I opened it up, had $35 in it. I said, "I owe you $10. He said, "No," said, "that I told you job paid $35. I said, "Well, I told you I'd take it for 25, and that's all I'm going to take." Well, that's supposed to have been a 3-month training period, but before the third week ended, the man, I didn't have no dress clothes. Before the third week ended, the manager had taken me to lunch twice, bought me a new suit, and on Fridays and Saturdays, I'd walk the floors to watch for shoplifters. Sue and myself was corresponding, wanting her out there with me and wanting back here with her, but I'm not going to hitchhike back. So I worked 9 months, got me a job at signal service stations, changing oil, greasing cars, part-time. In 9 months, I bought me an old 37 soda and drove home. I didn't stop at motels or hotels or nothing else. I'd gotten that old soda and I started across the desert. I'd drive till I get so sleepy I couldn't hold my eyes open, pull off the side of the road, climbing back, sleep. Wake up on the road again. Got home on But Friday evening, I'd left on a Monday, about dinner time. Well, of course, I had to go see her, you know. Went back to work for State Highway prison camp. It was 905 long-term camp then. Driving dump truck, run a bulldozer a couple times for them up there. And was planning on getting married. About ready to settle down. Korean War broke out in June of '50, and I knew where I was going because they had my number. So instead of going back on my own, going back into the Signal Corps, I joined Combat Engineers, went to Seattle, Fort Lowell. Started getting married, but I got to thinking about these other fellows that getting married and leaving a young wife at home and not coming back. So we put it off. But I did come back Greyhound bus from Seattle. Straight home, put a ring on her finger, straight back. But then straight to Korea. Nine months wasn't good. Well, a year, about 2.5 months, I was in Japan hospital, but Korea wasn't. When I come home, I got home in January. We got married February the 5th. Didn't regret a day from then. Got out, went back to work for state for about a month, and Duke Power, they called me to come in. And the day I went to work for Duke Power, on Monday morning, dozer operator pushing coal over at River Bend. That's the only reason he hired me. Operate that bulldozer and pan. I got home that evening. I had a letter there from Bell South that tell me offered me the job. 1 cent difference in the pay. So made a trip to the gas station and told the manager over there, district superintendent, I appreciate the offer, but I started Duke. But I had to have one of those jobs, Duke or Bell South one. $62 years, 7 months, 2 weeks, and a few days. I had the best. And now, this past year has been trying to fill in the gaps, and hadn't got them full yet. I did go to long high shows the other day, Sunday. I don't know whether you missed me or not, but I was at church. But in 1939, barefooted, overalls, I went into that little church, the Methodist church in high shows, there on the river, and that's where I found Jesus. And I had never been back to that church since, till Sunday before last. And I went. Jesus was still with me, and he was there. The power was off. They were having homecoming. But I didn't stay for lunch. I come home.
So what happened when you, in '39, when you walked in there? What happened?
I don't know. I went down to that altar, so I don't know why I got down there. But I cried my eyes out. I know that. I remember that.
How old were you?
About 9 years old.